Hello everybody, welcome back. Okay, today, first I want to say thank you for Thinker. Oh my goodness, this has been a big help for me and for my students, helping us just calm our brains down and be more focused. So if you have not got your bottle of Thinker, then check it out. And also look at my videos that talk about the doTERRA essential oils. So that is from doTERRA. All right guys, let's get into it. All right. B and D confusion. Why do students have so much trouble with these two letters? Well, let's first think of it as this. We all start off, our brains, we all start off that no matter what shape it is, pencil, if I could think of, let me get this, a block, right? If no matter which way we turn it in our brains, it's still the same block, right? But letters are not that way. So with letters, a certain way, it changes the whole meaning of that letter. So this is very normal to see in young students. A lot of times the idea is that all dyslexics reverse their letters. And while it can be a sign, it is not the concrete evidence that shows that a person is dyslexic or not dyslexic. So up until the age of 7, you may see this with your students. The way that we're going to help them know, now this could be for any child, any student, or our students that have dyslexia, we're going to work on a couple of different ways. So the very first thing I want to share with you is this really cool technique that I work with a lot of my students. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your fingers like this, all right? And we're going to have, this is our B, and this is our D, all right? B and D. So I found that with my students, we work really hard on this, B and D. And then if they're having a hard time, they'll just they'll put their fingers up. And I do this when I tutor with them. I'll say, okay, if they get them mixed up, I'm like, okay, let's put our fingers up. What is that again? Which one is this? And so this is going to help them get in that multi-sensory, they're visualizing it. And throughout time, I'm also practicing with them those sounds. And so another thing they should be doing is you really should be clarifying with them, what does B say and what does D say? All right, so B, B, and D, D. All right, so remember, we're going to clip those sounds. We don't want them to be B, all right, because that has a vowel sound to it. And we don't want it to be duh. All right, so really be sure that you're telling them clip the sound, B and D. All right, very, very short stops. The other thing that we do is, this is a great way to help them visualize it, is we are going to draw. All right, so most of my students, especially young students, they love to draw, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to give them a piece of paper, construction paper. A lot of times I'll have construction paper with them, and I'll have some white paper, and I'll say, okay, choose your piece of paper, and they'll choose whatever color they prefer. And we also keep this in their binder to help them refer back to. And so we're going to draw a B. All right. Then we're going to draw a D. Now, I'm not the best artist, all right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to spell bed. So we go B-E-D. What letter says E? And so we would write that E. Now we're putting it really close. The idea here is that we want them to know the different letters. I will even say, hey, let's get out 2 different colors. Maybe we want to do a purple and let's do a red. Okay? All right. Now we're going to say, let's draw a bed. Take this and turn it into a bed. So this is where their creativity comes from. Again, I am not the best artist, but you can see here that we can make it very fun, right? We can draw a bed. And then we would just practice. B and D. B, D, bed. All right? So this is a really great way. The other way that we can do that, and this is really good for maybe the older students who don't want to have their fingers out really all the time, is we are actually going to draw on our fingers, okay? So we're going to draw A, B, C, and D. Now, whenever we do our tapping out our sounds, a lot of times we'll say tap out the word, tap out the sounds. Okay? So if we're going to do that, we're going to write A, B, C, and D. All right. So you can see here, A, B, C, and D. Now we're going to have those on their hands so that way they can look at it. B comes first, D is a second. So they can look at it as they're writing. And at this point, they should already understand the sounds or have a pretty good foundation of those sounds. So another thing that is really great is to skywrite. Now, what is skywriting? This is something that we do with our red words. This is something that we do with anything that we're trying to remember. So you're really going to move muscles in this, all right? So for here, we would write, it's really good to have a visual. So if we're going to use our B, we would want to focus on that B. So everything else should be cleared off. Let me just clear those off real quick and get the skywriting. Now, skywriting, it really does in multiple senses. So we're going to be saying it, we're going to be hearing it, we're going to see it. All right. So let's start with the letter B. All right, nice and big. All right. So with the skywriting, you're going to put the student put their hand here. All right, and this is muscle. So when you're moving your shoulder, it's registering the muscle movement here and here. All right. It also is, we're going to use our tongue as a muscle. So as you can see, we're using lots of muscles, right? We're also up. We're being very engaged. So we're going to start here. We're going to put our hand out. All right. And then we're going to trace the B. All right. Nice and big. B. 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 All right. So I have students who are like, I want to do my feet. And I'm like, yeah, let's do our feet. And we'll get our feet up and do it B. Or if you have outside, you can write the letter B in the sand. So any way to get that movement, and we want to say it, because when we say it, we're also hearing it, right? So we're bringing all of these wonderful senses into it to help connect and get those neurons firing. The other tip I have for you, or I have a couple more tips actually. The other tip I have for you is if you don't have, if you want them to use something that's textured, all right? So this is really fun because it could be in sand, it could be in rice, oatmeal, it could be in shaving cream, whatever you have. It could be outside with a stick and in the dirt. And you're just going to be writing those letters. B. Anything that's tactile. So anything that's rough surface or bumpy surface, super smooth surface, anything that's registering that side of the brain. And then one other tip I have actually for you is to play games. So you can go online or create your own worksheets. And what you're going to do is you're just going to say, okay, here's the color red. Color all of the B's red. And on that piece of paper, you may have a B and D. You can get a die and you can write B and D throughout, and then you roll it and you say, oh, what letter is that? Oh, that's B. And maybe you make a graphic organizer with it. That's super fun. And because you're also now adding in learning how to take data and collect that. I wanted to add a couple of things because I know it's very common, and they'll some people say, well, we can have a B as a big belly, right? We can have make this into a person and they have a big belly. Okay, not the greatest artist, guys. It's okay. All right, I'm not an art teacher. Let me grab some. And then we would draw D for diaper. So a lot of people say, well, do this and then make this a person. It's got a big belly, BB. And then we would do D, as in they have a diaper, right? My only concern with this is this confusing. This is super confusing, even for me, to know. It just doesn't register. And as a dyslexic, I can relate a lot of times with my students on what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So if this one works for you, that's great. If your students are picking that up, but I don't want this to be the only thing, because I have found personally that this is very confusing for my students and for my children. One thing that I did teach my daughter when she was younger, before I went to training, before I worked with dyslexics, is we worked with B, and I said, okay, only B, you can remove part of it. And so if she was not sure which one it was, is it a D or is it a B? Well, can we add a top to it? And we would just remove that. Oh, that's the B. And we would turn this into a fun bumblebee. So, so that would be our little bumblebee guy that we would draw, and she would recognize that. So those are just some other options that I wanted to kind of put out there for you. Select that. So I hope those help you. I hope you had fun learning. Do not forget, I am going to be doing the letter P, and G, and Q coming up on my next videos. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and share, because I appreciate all of you. Goodbye.